Well, hello, my lovely friends, and Happy New Year! Woohoo! It is going to be a good one. If you still haven't yet, I would highly encourage you to stop by my YouTube channel, Beautifully Changed, and listen to the end of the year meditation that I put out. So it just helps you review 2020 and get ready for 2021. So check it out. And also, I'm very curious. Do you have a word that you set the intentions around for the new year? Mine is purposeful. I thought it was going to be expand, but then with some searching and all that stuff, I decided purposeful was the word that just kind of spoke to me the most. So if you have a word, I would love to hear it. So send me a DM on Instagram and let me know what your word is because I want to know and I want to cheer you on. Welcome to the Beautifully Changed podcast. I'm Steph Prehamas, your host, and here on this podcast, you learn tips about relationships and life that you can start applying today. Thanks for being here and enjoy. Today, we're going to talk about the connection between art and self-love. And today, I have a guest to have this conversation with me, and her name is Dina Ziskin-Fortune. So let me tell you a little bit about Dina, just in case you are curious. Dina believes that her life is a painting. Layers are added, and words and numbers are many times appearing as part of the story. We are evolving, as is the art we create. We may feel broken at times, but we are also putting the pieces back together to find a new kind of whole. Through Dina's art, she is working through all the judgments and letting go of the experience of the victim. We are all connected energetically, karmically, and we are mirrors of each other. Dina believes that we humans are part of the collective, and she tunes into that, allowing images to come through on her canvas. Her life is this moment, and into the future is about learning to love herself, letting go of judgments, and seeing the beauty within herself and others. Her statement is of love. And Dina has been painting and creating multimedia art since she was 16 years old, and now she's 48, and she has found a new purpose to paint. She graduated from Carnegie Mellon with a degree in fine art, studying art, jewelry, and film for a year in Florence, Italy, then followed up with a computer graphics course at the School of Visual Arts in New York City. In her 20s, she lived in New York City to live and breathe as an artist. She showed her creations there and in Hoboken. Dina used items that people had thrown out or discarded as useless junk. This included shelves and windows, and she worked with the broken pieces of linen and canvas and created beauty. Even then, she would find beauty in what was broken and then mended or put back together in a new way. She would find ways to layer and dig and expose the rawness. And then Dina took a long hiatus from painting. And now she has started to paint on glass with watercolors. She has allowed herself to channel her feelings as she goes through and ascends and sees the layers revealing themselves to her. Dina feels as she is now in the flow, and the message is of love and connection. Dina says, I am a channel of prime force energy and a multidimensional artist who also loves to eat healthy, dance, and inspire people to love, to be love and themselves as the divine beings we are. I believe that our bodies are our vessels, and I get to help people know ways to honor and love ourselves as we are created to be loved and help each other with the ascension. So that's a little bit about Dina. Now let's go ahead and dive into our conversation. And as always, thank you so much for being here, and I would love it if you left a review. Hey Dina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. So
Yes.
exciting.
I know this is going to be great. I'm so interested though, if you would be willing to share the little bit that we just talked about, how you had to give yourself like this little pep talk to make sure that you followed through with coming on and talking with me today and sharing a little bit of a tool with all of my audience that you know is beautiful in connecting yourself with self-love. But before we do that, you shared how you had to like pep talk yourself to make sure you didn't like cancel on me. So can you share a little bit of that and how, that process you went through? Because I thought it was so cool and so relatable.
Well, it's really funny because I received this book from a friend like just in time on Saturday on 12/12, and it was this book, You Are Enough. And so as I was like looking, I was like, wow, I don't know, like I don't know if I'm successful enough, if I'm like ready enough, what am I gonna say? And then I was like, of course I am. Of course I'm enough. I'm successful enough. I'm smart enough. I have a lot to say. And wherever I am is a good point to speak about, because not everyone is going to go into a business. And just because we're not in a business doesn't mean that we don't have something to say or share. And we're all on different journeys, really. And our what I said to myself too is like, my success is just being alive.
That's
Really.
That's so true. And if you don't mind, can we touch on that for a minute? Because I know a few weeks ago I had Claire on and she wanted to talk about, basically how she's overcome a lot of challenges in her life. And I didn't know it ahead of time. She hadn't told me before she was on, like before we were recording. And then she said she was born without a thyroid. And I was like, what? Hold the phone. I just met someone like a year or two ago. I can't remember exactly when we met, but I know it's been
It's
like
about a year, maybe 2 years.
yeah, somewhere within a 2-year period. And I was like, whoa, I know somebody else and before you, Dina, I had never met anyone who was born without a thyroid before that I knew of that had shared that information with me. I'm sure there's,
Yeah.
more
Wow.
people out there, but it was so surprising to me when she said that, because I was like, what? So I'm wondering if you can share a little bit of your experience and just the miracle of life and how knowing that you were born without a thyroid and how to regulate and all of this stuff in your life, just even the gratitude or appreciation, or if you've always had the appreciation for life or if you had to learn it, kind of your journey through that.
Okay. Well, it's been a journey because so technically I was told I was born without a thyroid, and like my birth was quite a miracle. So, and the more I learned about that, how being born at a time when there was no testing for thyroid. There was no testing for thyroid levels. So this was 71. And if you want to talk about miracles and like contracts or whatever, my doctor was literally contracted in my life um, to show up to be the doctor that was able to diagnose me. Within a month, I broke my collarbone being born because I was a month late. And I was so big, and I was literally broken being born. and he had to come visit me, and he was one of these few doctors that went to this special seminar in 1971 about thyroid disorders. So the struggle is there was at the time I was born, my parents had no reference. There was no reference for what do you do with a child that was born without a thyroid. And it took 3 months, 3 months for them to be able to figure out that I had no thyroid function.
Wow.
So who knows what, like your thyroid is connected to your brain function. Your thyroid is in charge of so much of you. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert. I just know what I know from the years of living, 48, that your thyroid is so connected with your mental health too. Your metabolism. I mean, it really is such an important part of your function. Anyway, so really too skinny, and then I was too fat. I this is to wrap up the bow of like, how do I base who I am when I'm such a unique person of like, well, I'm too skinny right now, but that's because my body is functioning this way. I'm just happy to be alive. But and then going through ups and downs of weight and working out and trying to figure out how to navigate. Hey, doctor, I'm not trying to be overweight. Like, I want to feel good. And my response from them was, well, you just got to know how to eat better. And I was like, so that kind of ties into eventual learning how the self-love of being like, starting to be like, wait, at some point it occurred to me, after I already lost 50 pounds, but I was still having challenges with the way that I was perceiving my body. When I was looking in the mirror, I was still seeing the 200-pound girl. And I was like, what's going on here? And so I just started like telling my body, like, I love you. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing for me. Thank you for working with me. And even just today, it's like, thank you for having the tenacity to function around having to rely on thyroid medicine to function and to have a brain that's functioning well enough based on that. So I can go on and on, but it's been a huge, long process of learning to look at myself and say, you know what, you're okay.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it's kind of a unique approach to really having to embrace and accept and love your body, which we can all relate to, right? But the unique experience of, and maybe it's not that unique, but the roller coaster of going from thin to, you know, extra weight and feeling like frustration within that and seeking resources and them telling, well, you just need to eat better. And you're probably like, I am eating healthy, or I am eating the foods that I need to eat. And it's not like, this isn't, I need more support than this, people. And so within that process, then I love how you also said that you started like just talking to your body and loving each body part. That is something that I actually have my clients do who are struggling with just loving their body, because so often we can think, well, as soon as I'm this specific weight on the scale, I will suddenly love and accept every part of myself. But as you said, even when you lost the 50 pounds, you were still seeing yourself differently in the mirror. And so I love that you did that exercise, because you're proof to tell people like, hey, it actually legit works. Because I also did that exercise in my own journey of just loving my body. And I have a thyroid, and I've always been in like more of like the more fit category. And people think often because you're in the more fit category, well, then you have no right to ever, disapprove of your body or have a struggle in a relationship with your body. However, even if you have a fit body, people are still making their comments on it. Such as an example, I had a boyfriend once where when I was like 18, he'd be like, you need to not eat ice cream that much. I'm like 110 pounds, whatever. He's like, you need to stop eating so much ice cream, basically, right? So I'll stay skinny. And
Right.
I'm like, are you kidding me? I'll eat ice cream when I want to eat ice cream. So it's like, even though you're like skinny, right? Or fit based on like society standards, people will still tell you that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Or, to dictate yourself on what you need to do so that you can remain good enough in their view, right? But I'm like, I'm not telling you you need to get to the gym and like pack on more muscle pounds, like, come on. For my ideal version of what I would think someone needs to look like, right? So it's just really interesting with that. So I also did that body exercise, but I would do it with lotion. So I would start with my feet, and I would just like thank every part of my body. So like after I got out of the shower, I usually put on lotion. And I would like, it feels silly at first because you're like, hey, feet, I love you. Thanks for walking me through the day. But then it becomes like real, and you are forced to face the fact that your body does show up for you, and it deserves that appreciation and acknowledgement. So I love that. I love that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, I learned along the way that when we appreciate our body and we love on our body as if it's almost like another entity, it it's wanting to talk to us, like, and I don't even care like how that sounds to some people because it's true. I believe it. Anyway, I feel like our body like wants to communicate with us and wants to work with us. And we're like, I believe that we're spiritual beings and a human vessel. And that when we're treating our body like a temple, it's housing our soul for this life. So why would we not want to treasure it and appreciate it and respect it? And I found that when I was doing that, I was seeing my body shape change. I was seeing myself look better in the mirror and my abs were more defined and like it just it started to show the results of what I was doing. And it's like and it's a constant like remembrance of like, listen, we might not all have flat abs, and that's okay, because it's like these are, my abs might look flat to someone else, but I might not think that they're flat. But at the same time, it's like, I'm just gonna say they're a beautiful work of art. And that's the thing, our bodies are a work of art. And I think that that's where I was going with it, is like, um looking at your body as like a work of art and in itself. And we're living beings of an art piece that's experiencing things, right? And so I've never said these things on a podcast before. So it's stepping, it's the more I speak about it, I feel like it could be helpful for people to hear. It's another way of looking at yourself as a work of art.
No, I love that. I love that. And I think what you're saying, a couple of things, right? With like your body wanting to communicate with yourself and that your body is like a vessel and you can treat it like a temple, right? And sometimes we think that means a specific rules that we need to follow for our body, but how you treat your body like a temple could be different than how I treat my body like a temple, right? When we're tuned in and we're listening to our body, it tells us what feels good for us. Like for me personally, like I love yoga, but my yoga of choice is yin yoga because it's so meditative. It just like it really helps me release any pent up, you know, emotions or any trauma that's still lingering in my body. And so I love yin yoga, but other people love like vinyasa yoga, right? Or like the flow where it's like they feel like they got a really good workout when they're doing their yoga. And so I think it's like that's part of listening to your body, like which movement, what type of movement feels really good for your body. Or like if I eat certain food, my stomach's like, no, thank you. What'd you just do there? This is not good. And then it affects like my mood, my like focus, my memory, my concentration, my productivity in the day. And so all of that really does matter. And so I love that you're talking about that and how we can connect it to our body and also art, right? Like I don't know a ton about art. I took art in school, right? And I had some best friends that are like really very artistic and I've always been more of the not artistic person. But it's so cool because my son is so artistic and so creative. And like he's 7 and he can already like draw so incredibly, especially compared to me. Like I try to draw with him and my like skills are so subpar, but I still do it because it's really fun for me. So I love how you're saying about if we think of our body as like art, right? Then how we're like what we're putting into it and how we're loving it will shape that art in a sense, right? And
Yeah,
it's also
basically.
just loving yourself. Like people often think like you don't have to love your body, but loving your body is an action and how you treat your body and how you think about your body and how you talk about your body. So very
Well, I feel
interesting.
like, being an artist and looking and doing self portraits was really a way for me to learn how to look at myself. and be like, what feature do I really like? What feature? And then it's like seeing, because when you're being an artist, you're looking for the beauty in something. And so it's like, listen, it's the finding the beauty in the imperfection. That has been part of my language. And it's so funny because Brene Brown came up on my Instagram for the first time with a live ever today, the hour before this. It was like, what? Like, and it was about this girl who had a tattoo mistake, and she brought up like the beauty of the imperfection. And I'm like, so much of my art is about the beauty of the imperfection and about making mistakes and and appreciating the mistakes for what they are. And like, I got scars, girl, but they're a part of me and they're part of my beauty marks, and it's like embracing, those little funky like nibbles and bits that like only you see, because other people are not really seeing that, and they could be looking at you and be like, wow, you look great, I don't know what you're talking about. And I get off topic sometimes. And embracing that, but there's like the art became a way for me to communicate in a way that I couldn't communicate with words, because with the way that my brain developed without the thyroid, there are certain syntaxes that it's harder for me to communicate than maybe it's hard for me to compare to someone else, but like where sentence structure, I had to get tutored in sentence structure because it was so hard for me to complete a sentence without starting 3 other sentences. So for me to stay on topic in one sentence is huge.
Yeah. That's okay. I love everything that you're saying. So I want to, just so everyone who's listening, even though we've talked about so many great things, one of the reasons that I really wanted to take the opportunity to discuss with you specifically is because you are an artist. And I wanted to have you kind of share your insight around like the connection of self-love and art, which you've already begun to discuss and dive into, and I'm loving it so far. So I just want to just give you some space to really dive into the insights and what you've learned and how art's really opened up that connection and that flow of self-love for yourself and how you use it to help other people do the same.
Okay, well, it kind of started shortly before I met you. I had taken a long break from my art, and I had gotten really more on the journey with fitness, but I was now stepping back into like art, and I was starting to make butterflies, and I was starting to paint masks. And the masks became about a communication of me with other people. Like I was working on forgiveness, and I was using the art. Like the art became like, how do I see people in a different perspective? And so I started to paint masks, and that opened up a door, because then it was like, not only it was like, how am I truly perceiving other people, but how am I perceiving myself? And then turned into taking responsibility for perceiving people that had hurt me in the past with different perspectives. I was like, gee, what were they going through? And then it was like, well, how can I be more compassionate to that person? And then it was like, wait, let me be compassionate to myself. And then it like spiraled. And then I took an opportunity to be an artist for NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness, to create the masks. And for this fashion show that was all about destigmatizing mental illness.
Wow.
So I got to determine what the theme was. It was about butterflies, and it was like, we are all so beautiful. And that was like, woo! It was like, loving, like seeing each other as like a butterfly, and then like, and I was not in my ideal space of being in a model body at this time, and they invited me to be one of the runway models because they were so happy with what I did and what I was doing, and they asked me to be a runway model. So here I'm like, okay, yeah, I've lost some weight, but runway model, I don't know about that. I'm like really this and I'm really that. And I was like, this is an opportunity for me to really love myself, because I had gone from like, I don't know, really, I don't like labels, but I had gotten up to like 200 pounds almost, which was really overweight for me. And I had gotten down to about an athletic 140, 150. I stopped weighing myself. By the way, I stopped weighing myself because I had such an addiction to the scale that I couldn't go through a day without weighing myself 3 times. So I don't know how much I weigh. And I don't really like to know how I weigh, because it just becomes a thing. So this is kind of how the art and the self-love, because I started to see how everything is connected. Our energy, where we put our energy, how we see ourselves, is also reflected by how we see other people, and what we're receiving from people is also a mirror of what we're seeing for ourselves. And it it art became a vessel, a channel. And the more that I opened up to how I wanted to understand myself and the world around me, the more my life opened up.
I love that. And I love that you did that art project for NAMI. Like, that's incredible. I used to use that website like almost every single day when I worked, when I first started working at a treatment center, because I worked at a treatment center for co-occurring disorders. And it was so powerful and so interesting. And that website has like resources beyond resources. And it just really helped me be a better service provider for my clients at the time. So it was really interesting. So I just know that organization so much. So it's so cool that you got to do that. Like, I have just a true deep understanding and appreciation for what they do. And like, I think when you were like wondering, am I successful enough to like, hot dang, yes you are. Like, that's incredible that you got to do that. And I love how you took that opportunity as a challenge or an opportunity to really dive into your self-love and say, my body doesn't have to look a specific way to celebrate it. So, and to let other people see the beauty within it, because really it doesn't really matter what size we are. It's really about how we see and value ourselves. And so, yeah, I'm going to say that for a question in a little bit, because I have a question for you that I want to ask in a little bit though. So this is really interesting, because one of my questions I wanted to ask you is like, what has art helped kind of guide you through or move you through? Do you feel like it can also help people just as they're making tough decisions, or like when they're trying to honor who they are, you know what I mean? But like other people in their life are like, I don't know. Like, do you think art can help you really help you discover who you are?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, and you don't have to be a so-called like artist to paint. Actually, recently was something I did a one-on-one Zoom session with a friend who's a real estate agent, and I just held space with her. We had a conversation, and she was able to make an art piece within that, and that she was quite proud of. And it was something she was working on her logo. She was looking to get inspired. And it was just her segmenting that time for her space to just get out of her mind and into this playfulness of playing with the color. And I mean, there's a whole science behind, creative expression, and there's so many ways that you can use art to basically tune in, tap in, tune in, and like um play with the color and what comes to mind freely and intuitively to get more understanding of yourself. It's just really opening your mind and allowing yourself to go into that space of just being and letting go of what you think something should look like,
Mhm.
because really this is a key thing. We're all basically artists in some way. This is my theory. We're all artists of our, we're like, if you want to look at your life is a canvas and you are painting it stroke by stroke, mistake by mistake, layer by layer, whatever you want to say, you're painting your life. So you can literally look at your life as a painting that's in progress and be like, do I want to make that stroke? Or don't I? And whichever decision is okay, because this stroke will lead to another stroke, and this color will lead to another color. But it's all good because it'll all come together in the end into one beautiful big picture.
I love that. And personally, I've found, so I definitely see myself as like a recovering perfectionist, which obviously comes from so many things. But I've discovered with my own journey that doing art and like you said, having to face when it doesn't look like how you thought it was going to look like, right? Like when you start off, or how they have those like nailed it, like the Pinterest fails or whatever. Like there's so many times when, and I started doing more art when I became a mom because I was at home and I wanted to do fun stuff with my son and, capture little moments from the time he was a baby to, to now. And so I'd go to Pinterest and I would find like something to do. And then I would do it with him. And I was like, mine looks nothing like nothing at all like it. However, I was able to let go of the idea that it needed to be perfect to be valuable. And I just like really embraced the moment and the memory, and that I have this now like little canvas, right? Of like something that I got to do with my son. And it's beautiful. And it's really helped me learn like it doesn't have to be perfect. Like it can be just what it is. And I can still have so much fun doing it. So now I do it because it's really fun and I enjoy the process versus the idea that it has to be perfect.
Well, it's like, what is perfect? Who determines what is perfect? And then also, I was in the beginning of me showing my artwork, my friend said to me, well, like, do you love it? How do you see it? Forget about everyone else. Like, when you look at it, does it bring you joy? Does it bring you happiness? And does it bring you delight? Because honestly, like, that's like, I feel like the art that we create are like little babies. They're like, they might be made of like, canvas and whatever, but they're energy, and it's an extension of your energy. And so I treat my art like they're my little babies. So I love them because they're an extension of me. So I that's something that I learned along the way. And then um I'm not one for religion. I'm more about like, universal knowledge, universal truth, stuff like that. So I'm more in the, we're all energy and so is our art. So we're just kind of co-creating. And so that's kind of how like I circle back to like the body love, the love of self, the love of what we create, because we're creating it.
I love it.
And why not love it?
Yeah, I mean, it feels just so much better to put like goodness into things than like destructive criticism, right? Like that's super heavy and and it can be also just help you identify certain aspects too that maybe you want to heal through or whatever. I know
Yeah.
sometimes I'll have clients when they're struggling with like worry or anxiety or anything like that. We talk about how, well, first stop calling it my anxiety, right? It's just anxiety that exists. And now I want you to draw anxiety, like what would anxiety look like in your life, and name it. And then this way we start to separate it from who we are, right?
Right. We don't have to carry it. We don't have to like hold on to it, and we can let it go. And but that's another thing with like weight. A lot of like the weight that we carry on to is stuff, is emotions that we just have not released. And so I loved how I looked at your program for the weight loss, and it was more like a release of what no longer serves us. And so I look at art as also a way to release, and I'm moving energy, and I dance when I paint. I like put on music, I dance, and I make it like sometimes ceremonial. And I go with it. And like, I have paintings that are like so weird, but I got into a thing called like light language, and I have this painting right here that's got feathers coming out of the throat. You want to see it?
Yeah, I would love to.
And weird, I love the word weird, by the way.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's real. I love all the colors that you use.
Thank you.
That's really unique. That's very like I think anybody can look at that and create a story.
Yeah, well, we all have different stories. And let me tell you, my work is not done. We're like, and that's why I say like the art is like, when is it ever finished? Is this painting really finished? I don't know. It might be at the point of like peak saturation, as my friend says. But like, it's like, when do I decide I'm done? Like when I'm good enough, when I look good enough, when I'm successful enough, like who determines that? And I feel like we do. We get to say, you know what? I don't care what anybody says anymore. I am enough because I say so.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I know sometimes we think like we have to do this like a certain accomplishment or have this person who like loves us forever or have this much amount of money or have traveled to this many places or just whatever it is, know this many celebrities or something like that before we can then all of a sudden become enough. It's like they're waiting for one day to wake up and just be like, "Oh, I've accomplished this. Well, now I'm enough." Ta-da. When
And then what?
yeah, and it's really a journey of just knowing that you are enough right now. I had such a great conversation with somebody the other day when we were talking about how a lot of times, and this like gave me great reflection for a lot of the meditations and the hypnosis I do, is a lot of times we talk about visualizing yourself as your best self. And she was like, and I get that. And I also want to know that I'm lovable right now, not as my best self. And I was like, hot dang, that is some truth right there. So,
Because we are a combination. I mean, in my opinion, I did ask my higher self to come through and like assist me with the right words. And like, I put an intention for me to come and show up and to be say what is in the highest good for all who are listening. So that this is not like an ego fest for me, but listen, it's a little bit of a stroking my ego, you know what I mean? Because I'm hearing myself feel like, dang, like I'm doing all right.
yeah. And I think
This
that's
is a marker.
yeah, there are points too, which is a really, really great point that you're saying, Dina, is that there are moments when it's so important to just validate our awesomeness and like celebrate our little wins, our big wins, and to have this space with somebody that will honor that and see that in us instead of thinking like, okay, egomaniac. Sometimes we just need someone to be like, yeah, you are awesome. And I'm glad you see your awesomeness. And when you are in that moment, when you say something and you're like, Whoa, did I just say that? That was incredible. Glad this is recorded.
Yeah, right. Well, I've had those moments where I was like, what? And that was when I discovered channeling. And the thing about channeling is we're like essentially like I believe that we're all channels because we're all having like stream through us. It's just a matter of like, words and tuning into it. And it's a topic that I haven't talked about much, but a lot more people are coming out and saying that they're channels. But like for me, it's like just channeling a thing like asking our higher self, our angels to be with us, to help us like say the words that are going to be for the greatest good of all. And yeah, you know what? I even when I met you, I was really into like really wanting, and I still want this, just taking my pace of things as my pace. And I work at a 9 to 5 job, and I'm grateful that I was able to take some time off today. That I could like, I worked this morning, and now I have the rest of the day off, and yay! And then I spend my other time with the other things that I get to love. Will I one day have a business that is super successful that I don't need to have a 9 to 5 job? Yes. And at the same time, I'm learning, and I'm bringing this up for a reason. I think because I realized I was having a hard time with it. And then I had to like come to a place of, when am I going to be a full-time artist? When am I going to be a full-time artist and, a full-time this and not having to work a full-time job. And I don't feel like I really arrived because I'm still working a full-time job. Well, isn't that self-limiting?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I wanted to that was part of my not enoughness that I was talking about in the beginning of the conversation. Anyway, so I think I got off topic.
No, that's fine. That's totally fine. It makes sense. It's not off topic. I definitely think that that's valid. And it's so cool for me when I meet somebody else who, asks for assistance during a conversation. I've been doing that since I very first started working in behavioral health, like 20 years ago. I've been, asking like, okay, please be with me. Give me the words to say, the questions to ask. Like I do that every time. And I think like literally I can think of one time I didn't do that. And I was like, oh no, it's just me showing up here, a little old flawed me. Hopefully this does not bomb, right? And it's just like one of those things now where it's part of my ritual, my routine. I always come like 10 minutes beforehand, like breathe a little bit, and ask for the assistance so that it can be a really powerful or successful, or just so that people feel good and heard and seen during the conversation.
And I think normalizing that asking for assistance, like I want it to be more normalized that people don't feel weird. We're like, oh yeah, I channel. Like we're all channels. Yeah. We all have that ability to ask for guidance. And it's interesting because at first when I was first talking about it, I was like, I don't know if I should, I don't know if I should mention that, that might be a little too much. But I was like, I gotta be my authentic self, because not being my authentic self is not being in service either.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that has been part of the process of like loving the whole shebang, and I'm not saying that I'm a perfect person or anything. I have my moments. I have some, temper tantrums and stuff like that. Like my moments of like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh wait, it's collective energies. It's not just you.
Yeah, no, I think definitely just be yourself. That's what I always love. Like talk exactly how you would speak, because even though this is like the primary is a relationship, it's also like a spiritual podcast as well. It kind of goes together, like the mind, body,
Oh,
soul. So that's why we talk about all this stuff. So my categories on like iTunes are relationship and then spiritual underneath, because it is connected in a sense. And I feel like I'm a very spiritual person, and so things will come out anyway. And the guests I invite on are usually pretty spiritual, so we're always talking about something of some sort. And so it's yeah, it's all welcome here. And okay, so I did want to make sure that we talk about taking time to be creative. And
yeah.
why is that important?
I feel like it's also a form of meditation. I feel like just allowing yourself the space to create and let something flow through you, to be in a moment and just having, there's something magical when like you can look at something and you make a date, a time for you. I just am finding that a lot of people like it's a moment of being in the now, and this like mysterious, like magical discovery of like starting from a blank piece of paper and then to this combination of colors that create an image, whatever it is. And I feel like there's a really feel good, like there's a transmutation, there's a transformation that starts to begin. And I'm not an expert on this. I just feel like it's been a lot of people I feel I've seen, like when they create something, they spend that time, even just an hour, just drawing. I mean, you can speak to this, just drawing or painting, no matter what it is. There's some kind of like, like something that's like lifted.
Yeah, it is. It is such a great way to complete the stress cycle. So, as you know, like working out is like the number one best way to complete your stress cycle, right? And I mean, that's why after we work out, we're like, I am incredible, right? Like, unstoppable. But being creative can also help you de-stress, complete the stress cycle. Also, I think it is just like another way to like let ideas flow. And like for me, I'm not like the I'm not like necessarily write like stories or anything like that, but for me, I'll have ideas and I need to like write it out real quick. I need to sit down. So I have like so many notebooks. Like I have notebooks all over the house. It's a problem probably. But it really helps me write out an idea when I have it. But my son, I mean, he's just so like he has like this music side of him that he's not super interested in, but I think he's one of those people who could be like, he's a prodigy when it comes to that, because it's just so natural for him. Like he'll go on and I'm like, what are you doing? You sound like you're playing a song, when it's just like, whoop, 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 right? But he loves to draw as well. And what he'll do is he'll get like this idea, like, I don't know, he'll be doing something, playing a game or watching a show, and he'll have to stop everything and go over and draw real fast, draw out his idea. And so one of the things we do as part of our bedtime routine is he literally has time to sit down and draw from anywhere from like 5 minutes to an hour to just draw out whatever he needs to draw before we go to bed. And if we don't have time for that, he will not sleep as well. So
I feel like that's amazing, and I feel like even seeing children like draw and I feel like there's something about like getting that stream of consciousness out onto something that can be stored, and then later you look at it and you're like, wow, like I don't know, like I feel like it's a form of like record keeping too. And I mean there's so many benefits to it. I just feel like for me, it's been a way to process my reality, or sometimes just going into a little bit of fairy, like, oh, I'm gonna paint a fairy, or I'm gonna paint a dragon, and it's just like fun. But sometimes, like right now, what I got into recently was I realized I'm an energy painter.
okay. Yeah, I could
Like,
see that from the painting you showed me. Like that's a great word to describe it, is that there's so much energy within it. And it's so creative.
Thank you.
So
And that's what it's like. It's like I'm literally like moving the energy and then it's transferring and I'm just intuitively picking the colors and like a lot my brush strokes were a lot of basically symbols and light language and then it became out like boom and then the dragons just showed up and like every time I look at it I see something else. I'm like, oh, that's like, what is that? Like, look at a little thing over there. But yeah, so I realized that like energy, the painting, even drawing, when you're writing or automatic writing, that's like a way of allowing energy to flow through you as well. So I'm sure you probably know very well. And I'm also thinking to myself how when you and I met on that first conversation, I was like, I connect with this girl. Like I just like remembering that again, and like we didn't like we're like there was something there. We're like, like there's something about this girl. Like I really relate to you, each other, and we connect.
yes, yeah, that is so great because then we have the freedom to flow how we flow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm wondering then if you have an art challenge that you can give us to do.
Oh boy. Self portrait. I feel like just taking maybe like just 15 minutes a day or a week, whatever, just to work on like a self portrait and it could be of any part of your body
I like that.
and
And
something that you like, a part of your body that you like, you just love and you want to have a physical representation of that part of your body to honor and love, and then it's not judging how it looks.
I like that. So, this is where my like logical side comes in. Do we take a photo of ourselves and do it? Do we look in the mirror? Do we just go off our memory? Or is that totally up to the creator?
Totally up to the person. If they want assistance, they can reach out to me. Um, um, you know, and like I said, like I'm starting to do these like consultative, like creative coachings. It's not a formulated thing yet. Right now, I'm in that kind of like creating it. So I'm always excited to just jump on a call and like bounce bounce.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's
No
okay.
worries.
I'm going to meditate.
We're a very spiritual family. Yeah. So I think having a mirror is really great because then they can work in your mirror techniques, which by the way are amazing. I was watching your mirror video and I wanted to tell you I love that so much and I practice mirror techniques, but I love yours and I think that I'm going to just do it the way you do it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I think mirror work is really, really life-changing. I know because every single person, like it's part of what I have my clients do is the mirror work. And, only if they want to have like a really solid transformation, if they really want to see things start to shift, the mirror work is key.
I mean, like even like an eye, a picture of an eye can really be pretty.
Ooh, I like that. I like this. Okay, so I kind of have a challenge for you if you're willing to
Okay,
accept it.
I better write this down.
Just go by how you feel. Like if it doesn't feel right, totally just throw it in the garbage. But if it does, and it's based off something you said earlier, and so maybe you could do a series around this, or maybe you only need to do one. I don't know, or you do none. But what if you did art around making a scale powerless?
Ooh, I like that. I like that. I like that.
And just like, because that would really, I think, would be pretty incredible. And that's why I was thinking like a series is like really just reminding people that scale doesn't really have any real power.
Right?
And so whatever that would look like in your like energy and like your colors and like all of your wonderful creativeness, I just
Oh
was
my
like,
God, that would be so funny. Like I could already see it now. And the thing is, like, when I was doing the kettlebell competitions, I had to get weighed. And so it became like, okay, like I could take it. But then I'd be like, I'm 155 pounds of love. So when I got away from weighing myself a lot, and I got more into like self-love, I can, I can take the weight, and then I'm like, oh man, I'm 665 pounds of pure muscle in love. So I have fun with it now, Sometimes I get angel numbers. That really cracks me up. I was like, when I got 155, I was like, oh, I'm gonna look up 155 angel number.
yeah, I'm always looking up angel numbers as well. That's so funny. Yeah, well, I was just thinking, even not even just for you, but all these other people who, because I know, like, I believe in intuitive eating. I know we're kind of transitioning, going off topic for a second, but I'm really like believe in that intuitive eating. And I don't know if you ever follow her or know of her, but it's like Blog Lottie's. She does like a lot of Pilates on YouTube.
Oh,
Her name's like Cassie, but anyway, a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was months, I don't know, she did a video about like her relationship with the scale. And I thought it was so great because a lot of times we get told, especially with intuitive eating, don't weigh yourself, or if you struggle with accepting yourself and loving yourself based on your weight, then stop weighing yourself. So she went through this process, right, where she used to struggle with weighing herself, and she talked about how then the next step is introducing the scale back into your life, but that scale doesn't have the same impact on you, and that you then use it for a form of data, or you use it as just information versus, and I was like, oh, that's really clever for her to have made it this next step in your relationship with your self-love and with the scale, because the scale doesn't have to be this thing that you avoid for all of your life, because to me that means then you're not completing your healing process. You're still giving it more power than it is worthy of having, right?
yeah. I just haven't had a real reason to weigh myself recently. I mean, I got weighed at the doctor's office and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. And then I was like, that's not really my real weight.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's
So
good. But I
yeah,
also just think like not even just you, just like this is
anybody.
a relatable thing, especially for so many women, right? Or like
Oh yeah.
the BMI scale is so messed up too, right? Like my husband, he's always considered obese on it because of his height versus his weight, right? And so
It's so cockeyed.
yeah, he even went to the doctors like a few months ago, and they were like, your BMI, and they treated him like he's on like his deathbed basically. And they're like, you need to get all this blood work. And he's like, I'm healthy. I just like, my weight's always been way over my BMI, because he's like Hawaiian and Filipino. So he has like
Oh wow.
legs and like, I mean, like,
They're bigger. Like
yeah,
they're more
yeah.
bigger.
And I think just the fact that his lower body is like solid and muscular, like, I mean, it doesn't account for muscle mass. So,
Right, that's the thing. It doesn't. It doesn't calculate how much your bones weigh or how much your blood weighs or I mean, it's like it doesn't give you that breakdown of like how much muscle you have versus like fat. So, I do agree. I would love to do something like that. So that would be definitely a further conversation of like how to get that going.
yeah,
Um,
just an idea I was going to throw out there for you. But okay, so for anyone who's listening and they're like, I want to connect with you, I want to, just be in your orbit, where would people find you?
They would find me on LinkedIn, mostly Instagram as Soul Butterfly Rising, and Facebook. I have multiple accounts, but I have my Dina Ziskin-Fortune Facebook, and I have Fortunate Painter, which is my art Facebook page. So Soul Butterfly Rising and Fortunate Painter are the two main places to go.
Awesome. I love that. And Dina, last question. What is advice that you try to live by?
Whatever knocks us down, we always have the ability to get up and keep moving.
I like that. I like that. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, right? That you can get up one more time. Might take a minute when but you can get back up. I love that. I love that. Well, Dina, thank you so much for your time today and just having this conversation with me and letting people know that art can really facilitate that connection with your self-love and, just that your body's art. And I love the idea of doing the self-portrait. And I hope everyone who's listening will do that as well. And there's so much freedom within it that we can do it and, get to know ourselves more. So.
I love this. This was so much fun. And thanks for the inspiration. And I got to set something up for that now. I like challenges.
Well, I just figured, give a challenge, receive a challenge, give a challenge. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. This was so great. And I pray that people can be benefited from our conversation.
Oh, I know it. I know it.
Intent.
Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. And make sure to share this episode with someone and leave a review. And remember, you're worthy of incredible love.